I'd been driving through Mexico for nearly 15 hours when I first noticed it, the stretch of highway that felt like it didn't belong. The desert had been endless for miles, the mountains only faint silhouettes against a fading orange sky, and my rig hummed steadily beneath me. I was tired, but nothing unusual had happened until I reached a junction that didn't exist on any of my maps. There were no signs, no mile markers, just a fork in the asphalt that disappeared behind a thin curtain of dust. On instinct, I took the left road. The truck responded well, tires crunching against the worn pavement. At first, it seemed normal, maybe a shortcut. But the farther I drove, the quieter it became, so quiet that I could hear the subtle vibrations of the engine through the cabin. Even the radio, when I flicked it on, only gave me static, like the air itself had been swallowed. The sun sank behind the mountains, leaving the horizon a dull, muted purple. Shadows stretched long and warped, and the desert around me began to look wrong. The cacti were jagged in ways they shouldn't be, casting impossible angles. Rocks jutted out of the ground like broken teeth. Even the wind had died down, leaving a stillness that made my own breathing sound too loud. I glanced at the GPS. No signal. Not that it had been helping much anyway. My heart started to beat a little faster, not from fear exactly, but from that tense awareness of being utterly alone. I pressed on, headlights cut through the darkness, but only a short distance. Every few minutes, I thought I saw movement at the edges of the light, a dark shape that seemed to shift when I tried to focus on it. Sometimes I swore I could hear a soft shuffle, like gravel being moved, but when I looked, there was nothing. I told myself it was exhaustion, the mind playing tricks. Still, there was a sense that I wasn't entirely alone. Hours passed. The moon rose high and pale, spilling silver across the desert, but it didn't bring comfort. Hours passed. The moon rose high and pale, spilling silver across the desert, but it didn't bring comfort. On the horizon, the mountains seemed closer than they should have been, almost as if the road itself had shifted, bending in ways that made no sense. My mirrors reflected only the empty road behind me. No other vehicles, no lights, nothing. Just the hum of my tires and something else, something that I couldn't name. I tried to remember when the last town had passed, the last sign of civilization. I couldn't. The further I drove, the more the world seemed to fold in on itself. I ran my hand over the dashboard, trying to ground myself, but the normal hum of the instruments seemed off, as though even the truck was aware of this place. My stomach twisted, not with fear exactly, but with the sharp, prickling realization that something was waiting. Then I saw the truck. It appeared suddenly, a silhouette in the distance, moving in the same lane as me, but going nowhere. At first, I thought it was another driver, but as I got closer, I realized the lights were off, and the shape itself didn't look quite right. Its edges flickered, like a reflection in a heat haze. I tried to pass it, keeping a steady speed, but no matter what I did, it stayed in front of me, as though glued to my path. I considered stopping. My hands tightened on the wheel. My mind searched for a reason, any rational explanation. Could it be a broken-down truck, left abandoned? Maybe, but the way it moved, always staying just ahead, as if aware of my presence, made every rational thought vanish. I slowed, inching forward with the headlights, illuminating only the asphalt and occasional rocks. The truck mirrored my pace perfectly. My headlights caught a glimpse of the driver's side window. Empty. No reflection, no figure, just darkness. The closer I got, the more certain I was that I shouldn't be seeing this at all. Yet there it was, moving along my path, as if it had been waiting. I tried honking. Nothing. I flicked the high beams. Nothing. It was as though the truck existed in some parallel layer of reality, visible only to me. I even thought about turning off the engine and letting it pass, but that made no sense either. The road was narrow, the shoulder non-existent, and the darkness behind it seemed to stretch into infinity. Finally, exhaustion hit me. I couldn't drive like this forever. I took the first small side road that branched off into nothing. The ground was hard and cracked, dust rising with every tire rotation. I stopped the rig, cut the engine, and sat in silence. The moonlight barely reached me here, and the air was so still it felt like the desert itself was holding its breath. I stared at the road ahead. It stretched straight for miles, flat and unbroken, yet impossible. I never saw the truck again. Not when I started the engine and moved slowly back onto the main road. Not when I passed the mountains the next morning. The fork I had taken had disappeared entire. Wheat by daylight, the asphalt was smooth, unbroken, and as if it had never existed. I told myself it was a hallucination, exhaustion catching me at just the wrong moment. But sometimes, when I drive alone at night, I remember the quiet, the way the desert seemed to breathe around me, and the shadow that followed without a sound. And sometimes I swear I can see that road again, just for a moment, stretching endlessly into the unknown. Even now, when I pass a junction that seems ordinary, I check my mirrors, and for a second, I think I see it again, waiting for someone who dares to follow.